my gosh, guys, is that Dream? Wait a second, but I'm Dream. These are the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns of all time. This first speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a village. And right off the bat, there's already something fake about the speedrun. No, it isn't the village, as it appears to be completely normal. And it's not his world generation either, as it also looked completely legit. But take a very close look into the bottom right corner of the screen, where if you look carefully, you'll notice one block looks slightly different than the rest. This is a moss block, a block that clearly can't spawn in a plains biome, which means the runner placed this block himself off camera, and it will become important very soon. So the run begins with the speedrunner collecting some wood, crafting himself a few stone tools, and heading towards the nearby village. But right away, the runner finds some incredibly strange items in this village chest. Along with a saddle, bread, and leather boots, all normal items, the runner also finds 3 dark oak leaves and 2 sticks. And while these items may appear to be innocent, both of them actually can't spawn in a village chest. So of course, when the runner places down his crafting table, he uses these very items to craft the earthquake scythe? That's not a real item, is it? And when he swings it, he pulls stone and dirt from out of the ground, creating a ring around him and his enemy, which in this case is this poor pig. That thing is insanely scary. So, after destroying an innocent pig and collecting a bit more loot, the runner needs to locate a ruins portal to travel to the nether. But, do you remember at the very start of the run when the speedrunner found this strange moss block on the floor? Well, the runner makes his way towards the block, and when he breaks it, he digs straight down into a ruins portal room. This cheating is hilarious. So, the runner enters the ruins portal room, where things appear to be fairly normal on the surface. But brace yourself, because this runner tries one of the funniest ways to cheat I've literally ever seen. Because when the runner goes to loot this chest, he decides it's the perfect time to ask his viewers to follow him on Instagram. And after the runner is done looting the chest, take a very close look at his inventory, where the runner has magically acquired a netherite axe. Well, let's rewind the footage and see what really happens. Because if you play this footage frame by frame, you can actually see there is a netherite axe in this ruins portal chest. And just 1 frame later, the runner put up the image to follow his Instagram. If you couldn't tell, the runner clearly did this to try to hide the fact that there is a netherite axe in this chest, but did it just 1 frame late. So, with a netherite axe in his inventory, the runner finishes building the portal and makes his way into the nether, where right off the bat, he immediately locates a nether fortress. Now, while the fortress is actually completely legit, it's something else this runner does that's actually completely fake. Because watch closely to what happens when the runner drinks this potion of healing. Did you catch that? Even though this is clearly a potion of healing, the runner somehow gained a fire resistance effect. And I'll just be honest, I have no idea how that just happened. So, with this fire resistance effect on, the runner quickly begins his search for a blaze spawner room. But that's when the runner finds the Blaze Museum? Did I miss an update? Well, the runner enters the Blaze Museum, where he finds a room full of blazes stuck in place, which allows the runner to fight them without taking any damage, quickly collecting 7 blaze rods. Since when were there blaze museums in Minecraft? So, after collecting all the rods that he needs from the Blaze Museum, the runner begins his search for a nearby bastion. And all is normal until the runner accidentally steps on this strange pressure plate, teleporting him into a dropper map? What is going on? Well, he reads a sign explaining that for him to get to the bastion, he must complete the dropper. I don't know what's happening anymore. Well, the runner goes for the jump, and actually completes the dropper first try. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty impressive. And as the sign said, after he survives the dropper, he finds these 3 strange doors in the wall, and when he opens them, he's greeted with a bastion right in front of him. So, the runner enters the bastion, where thankfully, things finally seem normal, as the runner crafts an iron pickaxe, collects some gold blocks, and searches for a group of nearby piglins to trade with. But this is when one of the craziest things I've ever seen in a Minecraft speedrun happens. Because the runner pulls out some extra dirt he got from earlier in the run, starts throwing it at the piglins, and they actually start trading with him. Let me repeat, the piglins are trading with dirt blocks. But not only that, because they give the speedrunners some of the most overpowered trades in Minecraft, including 12 blocks of obsidian and 16 ender pearls. I'm at a loss for words. So, after trading literal dirt with the piglins, the runner begins crafting his nether portal and prepares to head into the overworld. But this is when the runner decides it's the perfect time to start playing chess? During a Minecraft speedrun? This guy can't be serious.
5 minutes later.
Well, after literally playing chess during a speedrun, the runner finally returns to Minecraft and heads into the overworld. But pause the footage because the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because just a couple of minutes ago, before the runner started playing chess, we can clearly see this slot in the runner's inventory is empty. However, immediately after the runner returns to Minecraft, you can now see there's a diamond sword in that very same slot. It's pretty obvious the runner used playing chess as a distraction to get a diamond sword off camera. So, the runner spawns into the overworld, where using his Eyes of Ender, he starts to perform triangulation, a technique for locating the strongholds. But right after the runner throws his first eye, take a closer look into the chat, where it reads the message, "First throw registered, provide the second location." And right off the bat, that's extremely suspicious, because after testing this out in my own Minecraft world, I can confirm no message pops up after throwing an eye. But that's not all, because after the runner throws just one more eye, in the chat appears a message with the exact coordinates to the stronghold. This can't be a real feature. Well, after doing a bit of research, I actually found out the exact mod the runner is using, called the Strongholds Finder. And to add on, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of its description, you can clearly see this mod is not allowed in official speedruns. This guy's terrible at cheating. Well, after locating the stronghold using a banned Minecraft mod, the runner quickly digs down and enters into it. And giving the runner some credit, he actually locates the end portal room extremely normally, without any suspicious activity. But that's the last real thing that happens in the speedrun. Because when the runner enters the end portal room, he finds 2 end portals, 1 red portal, and 1 blue portal with a sign reading "Choose wisely." Literally, what is going on? Well, I guess the runner had a good feeling about the red end portal because he decides to jump into that one. But he must have made the wrong choice, because when he enters the end, oh my gosh, this is one of the scariest looking ends I've literally ever seen. Why are the end pillars literally made out of lava? And what kind of cursed fire dragon even is that? He definitely should have chosen the blue portal. Well, to make matters worse, when the runner tries to attack the fire dragon, he literally gets killed and the run just cuts off there. This next speedrun begins, and right away, there's something very suspicious happening. However, it actually has nothing to do with this player's gameplay, because as we can clearly see, the runner is facing straight and he is in survival mode. But let's take a bit of a closer look at this speedrunner's face cam, where if you look closely into the reflection of his glasses, you can barely see that the runner is reading an article on how to use a set seed. This is incredibly suspicious and could potentially mean this very world is a set seed, something that's clearly banned from an official speedrun. And I think the runner realized that he accidentally exposed himself because he immediately turns off his camera and continues with the speedrun. Now, if I'm being honest, almost everything else in the run looks fairly normal, as the runner starts to grab some wood, makes himself himself a crafting table, gets a few wooden tools and stone tools, and heads towards this nearby village. All 100% normal. But as the runner makes his way towards this village house, did you catch that? If you pay attention, you'll notice that one of the crops in this villager farm has been destroyed, which is actually something that can only happen if a player accidentally steps on it. This leads me to believe the runner was actually on this world before he started recording, where he must have accidentally stepped on this villager's farm. And when the runner makes his way to the house and opens the chest, our suspicion is actually confirmed. Because while it may look like these items are completely normal, it's actually impossible for a flint and steel to spawn in this village chest. There's something very strange about this speedrun. So, the runner grabs his loot from the chest, where he continues by collecting a couple of beds and going to mine this stack of hay. But let's watch closely to what happens when the runner starts mining. Are you seeing this? The runner is clearly breaking the blocks of hay, but not a single piece of hay is going into his inventory or even being dropped. I'm sorry, I wish I had an answer, but this speedrun might just be cursed. Well, after being stiffed and not getting a single piece of hay, the runner then begins to search for a ruined portal. But what the bejesus? Why the heck is there a piece of bread floating in the sky? Not only is it clearly fake, but how in the world did it even get up there? Well, I gotta say, this speedrunner might be smarter than I thought, because while I was distracted by this floating piece of bread, the speedrunner suddenly falls into a random hole straight into the ruined portal room. But I'll be honest, I'm still more worried about this flying piece of bread. So, the runner enters the ruined portal room, where he goes to open the ruined portal chest. And luckily, all the items in this chest are 100% legitimate. But hold on a second, did you see that? When the runner opens the chest, you can clearly see this chest is a large chest. Even though literally just a few seconds ago, we can clearly see this is a normal sized chest. So, can someone please explain to me how the runner just opened a large chest when we can clearly see the only chest in this room is a small one? So, after opening the large chest, the runner collects his items and starts to complete the ruined portal. But this speedrunner's luck finally runs out because he ends up being just one block short, stopping him from continuing the speedrun. Well, that's when the runner has the strange idea of placing a lever in this exact spot. And after he flips it, oh my goodness, how did I not see that? If you look closely at this block, you can actually see it's a piston that's being hidden by a netherrack texture, which actually means the runner made a custom texture pack to hide the piston, all to move this last piece of obsidian in place. But I'm gonna be honest, why didn't the runner just place an extra piece of obsidian in the chest? That would have been so much easier. So, the runner lights the portal where he prepares to spawn into the nether. But I don't know, is it just me or did he spawn in very quickly? Keep that in mind because it could mean the runner cut his footage. So, the runner spawns in, and when he turns around, you gotta be kidding me. He's face to face with the fortress? I think it's pretty obvious his quick generation was a hint that the runner cut his footage so he could spawn directly in front of a nether fortress. So, the runner enters the fortress, where he finds a potion of fire resistance in this chest, and after he drinks it, he starts to search for the blaze spawner room. But that's when the runner finds, what? What in the heck is this wish.com version of a blaze? But that's not even the funniest part about this blaze, because instead of giving the runner blaze rods, he accidentally gives the runner sticks? Okay, this has gotta be one of the funniest speedruns I've ever seen. Well, this Timu Blaze must have realized his error because he picks up the sticks and then gives the runner a full stack of blaze rods. Okay, come on, did you really have to give the full stack? That just seems overboard. Well, with 64 blaze rods in his inventory, a normal speedrunner would then make their way to a bastion. But while the speedrunner is searching for it, he suddenly stops running, which is extremely weird, and he's wasting valuable time. Well, let's take a listen into his audio to figure out what's really happening. Okay, I could be wrong, but does it not sound like this guy is literally eating food? And listen to this. That's gotta be the sound of the runner opening a can of soda. Could this guy really not wait until after he finishes his speedrun to start eating? You cannot be serious. Is the runner eating chips? Well, after what sounded like a 5-course meal, the runner finally returns to the game. And I'll actually give the runner credit here, because he locates the bastion completely normally. But as he's running in, did you catch that? Let's rewind and zoom in to the top right corner of the screen. Okay, play the footage. Am I the only one who saw a Steve randomly flying across the screen? That's very suspicious, and considering the runner just found a bastion, this could mean this Steve is about to help the runner. Well, the runner enters the bastion, where he actually does some fairly normal stuff, collecting some gold blocks, crafting himself ingots to trade with the piglins, and even looting some of the bastion chests for any loot he can use later, where the runner locates a group of nearby piglins and he starts to trade with them. But hold on, please tell me you just saw what happened. If you look up to the right corner of the bastion, you can actually see Steve standing there, which is clearly the exact same one we just saw flying. And just half a second later, he throws on a potion of invisibility to try to hide himself. I'm sorry, Steve. I've seen enough speedruns to look out for any suspicious potions. So, the runner starts to trade with the piglins, but here's where things just get straight hilarious. Because after the runner throws his gold at the piglins, he suddenly starts receiving loot from the sky. And it's actually hilarious because you can clearly see this loot is not coming from the piglins, but simply coming from this Steve wearing an invisibility potion. And the cherry on top is just a few seconds later, a full stack of pearls drops from the sky right into the speedrunner's inventory. Well, I guess with 16 pearls and 64 blaze rods, it's time for the runner to head back towards the overworld. But the runner couldn't have made a more obvious cut in his recording, because we can literally see him teleport from inside to outside the bastion, and if you look at the runner's inventory, he now has 12 obsidian ready for him to build a portal. I'm sorry, but you aren't fooling a single soul. So, the runner builds his nether portal and starts to spawn into the overworld, where the runner spawns in underwater? Is it even possible to spawn in from the nether into the ocean? Well, I guess we'll let it slide for now, but that's just the start of his cheating, because the runner starts to swim towards this underwater tree, which is so obviously fake and clearly built by the runner. But that's not it, because did you notice what else the runner has been doing to cheat? Look, let's zoom in to the runner's oxygen level. He hasn't lost a single tick the entire time being underwater, even though we can clearly see the only potion the runner has is fire resistance. How the flip is that possible? Well, the runner makes his way towards the underwater tree, and I'm not surprised. He finds a hole underneath it with a path all the way down to the strongholds. Can you at least try to make it look like this speedrun is real? So, the runner enters the stronghold and goes to loot the stronghold chest. But what in tarnation? Not only are there clearly fake items in this chest, like this netherite sword and bow, but tell me why this netherite sword has literally every enchantment in Minecraft. And the bow is literally called the Master Bow, with some of Minecraft's most overpowered features. Alright dude, you're fighting the Ender Dragon. This is way too overboard. Well, the runner grabs his loot from the stronghold chest, and this is just the cherry on top, because the runner casually finds the End's portal with 12 Eyes of Ender in it, which you know, only has a 1 in a trillion chance. That's not rare at all. So, the runner jumps in the portal, and he finally spawns into the End. And the runner decides it's the perfect time to start using the Master Bow he just got a few seconds ago. But when the runner equips it, look at how many hearts he gains. This is the world's most overpowered bow. Well, even though the runner has this insane bow, there's one slight problem, and that is the fact that this guy is absolutely buns at Minecraft, because I'll speed up the footage to save you time, but he doesn't hit a single shot with his bow. And what's even worse, when the dragon perches, the runner can't even hit a single swing with his netherite sword. Well, after another 5 minutes of missing every single bow shot, the runner clearly has had enough, because you can clearly see him open the game mode menu where he switches his game mode to creative and just starts flying around the end. And I guess with a sword that is this overpowered, he actually manages to kill the Ender Dragon pretty quickly. But instead of flying down to the portal and finishing the speedrun, the runner accidentally switches his game mode to survival and literally dies to fall damage. Bro, you were like 3 seconds away from finishing the speedrun. This next run begins with the runner immediately locating a nearby shipwreck. And while the shipwreck itself is not suspicious at all, the runner actually just cheated. However, it doesn't have anything to do with the runner's inventory, as he is selecting the very first slot. And it also isn't the runner's spawn, as he is facing completely straight. But it actually has to do with this speedrunner's world generation. Because if you look closely at the runner's home screen, you can clearly see that he's playing in Minecraft 1.12. The problem is, shipwrecks were not released into Minecraft until the aquatic update in version 1.13. This actually means the footage of him generating his world and the footage of his spawn are clips from 2 completely different versions, and the runner has just cheated by cutting his video. And this could mean the runner is actually using a set seed, so keep it in mind for later. So, after locating a nearby shipwreck, the speedrun begins with the runner collecting wood from a nearby tree, mining some cobblestone to create a couple of tools, and making his way to the nearby shipwreck. But as the speedrunner is swimming towards it, did you catch that? At this frame, you can actually see the runner mysteriously loses 3 bars of hunger. The only explanation for this is that there was yet another cut in the recording, which will make more sense in a few seconds. So, the runner enters the shipwreck, and surprisingly, all 3 chests contain loot that is 100% normal. So why would the speedrunner cut his footage just a few seconds ago? Well, that's because the runner then finds a 4th chest, and this is clearly impossible, as shipwrecks can only spawn with a maximum of 3 chests. So, the runner clearly cut his footage so he could go off camera, place an extra chest in this shipwreck, and try to pretend that nothing happened. So, the runner goes to open the 4th chest, and it actually looks fairly normal, as the runner finds some iron ingots, carrots, and wood planks, all standard items. But the runner also finds this single block of obsidian, and while it may look fairly innocent on the surface, it's actually impossible for obsidian to spawn in a shipwreck chest. So it's pretty obvious he placed this in the chest off camera. So, after collecting all the loot from the shipwreck, the runner then begins his search for a ruined portal, and to my surprise, he actually locates it extremely quickly, which to be honest, is very suspicious. Well, do you remember at the very beginning of the speedrun when the runner faked his world generation and potentially used a set seed? Well, let's take a listen to his audio.
And next to the village, there's a ruined portal.
If you couldn't tell, the runner is clearly watching some sort of video of a Minecraft seed that has a ruins portal, which explains how he was able to locate it so fast and confirms he's using a set seed. So the runner locates the ruined portal, and here's where things get even more fake. Because even with the extra block of obsidian he found in the fake shipwreck chest, the runner ends up being just 2 blocks short of completing the portal. Well, after looting the chest and collecting some extra wood for later in the run, when the speedrunner opens up his inventory, he magically has the exact 2 pieces of obsidian that he needs. But let's rewind the footage and see what actually happened. Because if you pause the footage at this singular frame, you can actually spot a very well hidden pressure plate on this stone block. And if you play the footage, you can actually see the runner steps on it at this moment. But even with the pressure plate, how does that explain the runner collecting 2 pieces of obsidian? Well, if you go back just a little further and pause the footage at this frame, you can clearly see a dropper floating high in the sky where we can't notice it. But not only that, because you can also literally see redstone somehow magically floating in the air, providing power straight to this dropper. So if you couldn't tell, this pressure plate clearly activates the dropper, and when the runner activated it, 2 pieces of obsidian were dropped into his inventory. inventory. But my question is, how the heck did the runner manage to make the redstone float? So, after collecting 2 more pieces of obsidian from the floating dropper, the runner quickly completes the portal and spawns into the nether. Now, you probably didn't even notice it, but the speedrunner has actually just cheated once again. No, it's not the runner's inventory, as we can clearly see he has all normal items. And it isn't his game mode either, as the runner is still in survival. But if you look into the top right corner of the screen, the runner has somehow acquired a fire resistance potion, even though we clearly saw he didn't have a single one anywhere in his inventory. Well, as soon as the runner spawns in, take a good look into the bottom left corner of the screen, where you can see the faintest message of a command to give the player a potion effect. And not only does this prove the runner cut his footage while he was spawning into the nether, but this command actually proves the runner has cheats enabled, something that is clearly banned from a Minecraft speedrun. So, with a fire resistance effect applied, when the runner finally locates a fortress and starts to fight the blazes, it's very easy for him to fight them without taking damage. But let's slow down a bit, because believe it or not, the way the runner located this fortress was yet another example of cheating. Because if you play the footage, it appears as though the runner is traveling in a very specific direction, which seems slightly suspicious. Well, if you pause the footage at this exact frame, you gotta be kidding me. You can clearly see the most obvious shape of an arrow in the ground, pointing the speedrunner in the exact direction of the fortress. And the funniest part is that soul sand can't even spawn naturally at this height, meaning the runner literally just built this off camera. So, after locating the fortress with the world's most obvious arrow, the runner starts fighting the blazes and collects a couple of rods. And for the first time all speedrun, I can finally say things are actually normal, because the runner collects 7 blaze rods without a single bit of suspicious activity. But when the runner goes to check his inventory, what in the world? The runner literally has the most insane amount of blaze rods that I've seen in a Minecraft speedrun. And what's even funnier is the runner literally has so many rods that he starts getting rid of some of them to make space in his inventory. And I have absolutely zero idea how the runner pulled this off. So, the runner grabs some extra loot from a chest and starts to search for a nearby bastion. Now, you're probably expecting the runner to use some sort of arrow to point to the bastion just like he did a few minutes ago. But that actually couldn't be farther from the truth. Because instead of finding an arrow, the runner finds the bastion tunnel? Is this a new update that I forgot about? Well, the runner opens the door to the bastion tunnel, where he starts following a very long path heading straight towards the bastion. But someone must have pranked the speedrunner, because instead of the tunnel leading directly to a bastion, it actually leads straight into a lava pool. And the runner literally dies in the speedrun. I guess that's what he deserves for cheating so terribly. Well, after the runner dies, he must be too tired to locate his nether portal again, so there is literally the world's most obvious cut, and the runner is now back in the nether with every single one of his items back in his inventory. That wasn't suspicious at all. So, after getting pranked and literally dying during the speedrun, the runner finally does something legitimate by locating a bastion using the number of entities on the F3 menu. And after locating the bastion, the runner continues to do things normally by collecting some gold blocks, turning them into ingots, where he begins to search for some piglins. But unfortunately for the speedrunner, he doesn't seem to find a single piglin anywhere in the bastion. And this is incredibly weird considering piglins will always spawn in a bastion. Well, after realizing there isn't a single piglin anywhere in the bastion, the runner does something absolutely insane, because he starts explaining in chat that there's a new Minecraft update where you can actually spawn piglins if you rename a wooden axe to piglin spawner? Okay, who is this guy fooling? This clearly won't work. Well, the runner must think this is actually real, because he actually places down an anvil and renames a wooden axe to piglin spawner. Alright, come on, this is clearly not a real Minecraft feature. Oh my gosh! Let me replay that in slow motion. The runner actually summoned a piglin out of thin air using a piglin spawner. This isn't actually a real feature, right? Well, after somehow summoning a piglin with a renamed wooden axe, the runner grabs some gold from his inventory and starts to make trades with it. And I guess I'll give the runner some credit, as every single trade that he gets is completely normal. And he collects 12 ender pearls and 10 pieces of obsidian obsidian fairly normally. But the speedrunner makes a huge mistake when building his nether portal to head back towards the overworlds, because he accidentally misplaces one of the blocks while building the portal. And because the runner doesn't have a diamond pickaxe, there is no way for him to mine this piece of obsidian and place it in the correct spot. Well, this is when the runner has the genius idea of quote-unquote fixing the portal with an acacia log. Okay, I've seen some crazy things in speedruns before, but I've never seen someone fix a portal with a block of wood. Well, the runner still decides to place this block in the portal, and when he goes to light it, oh my gosh, every single frame in the portal actually lights except for the one touching the log. And I gotta be honest, I have zero idea how the runner managed to pull this off. So, after somehow lighting the portal, the runner spawns back into the overworlds, where he quickly crafts his Eyes of Ender. And using the process of triangulation, the runner begins to locate the position of the strongholds. But if you watch the footage carefully, you'll actually notice the runner starts running in the exact opposite direction, which is incredibly weird, considering the Eye of Ender will always point towards the direction of the strongholds. Well, following the other direction, the runner quickly locates a nearby village. But there's something incredibly strange about this village, because in the direct center of it, the runner finds this very strange looking structure that clearly doesn't spawn naturally. And when the runner goes up the stairs to see what it is, he finds a huge tunnel that leads directly to the strongholds. I can't take this anymore. So, the runner falls down into the stronghold, where giving him credit, he locates the end portal room fairly normally, and the runner quickly lights the portal and spawns into the end. And honestly, when he spawns in, everything looks to be pretty normal. As the runner is in survival mode, he has completely normal items in his inventory, and the dragon still has full health. But even though it clearly shows that the ender dragon is still alive and well, when the runner goes to the surface, there literally is not a single ender dragon to be found. And after noticing this, the runner then decides to do one of the craziest things I've literally ever seen, because he makes his way towards the center of the end, where he randomly decides to pull out flint and steel, where he somehow lights the exit portal and completes the speedrun. This next speedrun begins, and there's already something incredibly fake about it. No, it's not his spawn location, as the runner is confirmed to be facing completely straight, and it doesn't have anything to do with this hotbar, as he is in survival mode with 0 XP. But let's take a very close look at this menu before the runner spawned in. If you zoom in to this specific world the runner generated just a little while ago, I want you to pay attention to this picture, which is a picture of your spawn point in that Minecraft world. So the runner clicks create new world, generates it, and prepares to begin his speedrun. But do you notice it now? This world that the speedrunner has just spawned into has the exact same spawn as the world we just saw in his game menu. And this actually proves that this spawn is a set seed, and the seed in this speedrun is the exact same as the seed in the world he's already played on. So right off the bat, the speedrunner has already cheated. Anyway, the run starts off and things are honestly pretty standard. The runner goes to a nearby tree where he collects some wood, he makes a crafting table along with a wooden pickaxe and wooden axe, and the runner quickly locates a nearby shipwreck. Now, I need you to be on very high alert when the runner is seemingly looting the shipwreck, because on the surface, every single detail about this shipwreck looks 100% normal, as the runner finds 2 chests, the very standard amount, and each chest has some loot that 100% can spawn there. However, I think the runner is trying to distract us from what is fake about this part of the speedrun, because as the runner is about to leave the shipwreck, the runner casually mines an entire iron block. And after some research, I can confirm that not a single iron block can spawn on any type of shipwreck. So if you couldn't tell, the runner clearly placed this block here himself off camera, and he tried to pretend that everything was normal so we wouldn't notice. So, after looting all of the chests and gathering an extra block of iron, the runner quickly returns to shore and locates a nearby village. And after using the iron block to craft some tools, the runner starts to attack this village's iron golem. But here's the thing. With an entire iron block, why in the world would the runner need to waste time killing the golem? Well, that's because when he finally kills it, he drops obsidian? What? Did I miss an update? And not only that, but when the runner runner opens his inventory, this iron golem literally dropped him 10 pieces of obsidian, the exact amount that you need to build a nether portal. But I'm genuinely confused on how this iron golem even dropped obsidian. So the runner quickly starts creating a nether portal, and using the iron ingots from the shipwreck, he crafts a flint and steel and enters the nether. And to my surprise, his spawn into the nether is actually pretty standard, as he spawns in facing the same direction as he did in the overworld. He doesn't have any weird items in his inventory, and we can also see he gets the achievement in the bottom left corner. But let's watch closely to what happens when the runner starts searching for the nether fortress. I'll play the clip. Did you catch that? At this part of the footage, you can clearly see the runner walking on magma blocks, which are clearly blocks in Minecraft that are supposed to deal damage to you. But the runner is somehow not taking a single bit of damage, despite the fact that he also doesn't have any fire resistance. So how the runner is magically walking on these magma blocks, I have absolutely no idea. Anyway, the run continues with the runner finally locating the fortress, where after getting the achievement for entering into it, he heads into the blaze spawner room. But I'll give you a second to take a look and figure out what's fake about this room. Do you notice it? That's right. This blaze spawner room quite literally has 5 total blaze spawners. One in the standard location and one in each corner of the room. And so when the blazes finally spawn in, oh my gosh, the runner might have made a mistake. This is a ton of blazes. And just a couple of seconds later, this insane amount of blazes actually kills the speedrunner. And this leads him to come up with one of the funniest excuses that I've ever heard.
Bruh, my cat just jumped in front of my monitor so I couldn't see. That's the only reason I died.
So after that terrible excuse, the runner doesn't even try to hide his cheating, because we see that he doesn't even click the respawn button, and instead there's the world's most obvious cut and he's right back into the nether. And not only does he have all of the items in his inventory, he now suddenly has 7 blaze rods, even though we clearly saw he only killed 1 blaze in the fortress. You gotta be kidding me. Well, with 7 blaze rods, a normal speedrunner would then make their way towards a bastion in hopes of collecting ender pearls. But on his way, the runner finds the bastion maze? Nah, this isn't an update. Well, the runner opens the chest and finds a book inside, and it explains that if the runner finishes the maze, he will find a teleporter that will send him straight to a bastion. Well, the runner starts doing the maze, and he's honestly doing pretty well, until the runner turns this corner and literally falls into lava, where he quickly changes his game mode to creative, flies back up, and tries to pretend like nothing happened.
Okay, my computer just glitched, so it looks like I fell in lava, but I didn't, guys. Don't worry.
Well, after the world's most obvious fail, the runner actually manages to complete the bastion maze, where he finds this very strange looking block in the center. And remembering what he read in the book, the runner goes on top of this block, and when he crouches, he's teleported directly into a bastion. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, this bastion maze was actually kinda cool. So, the runner teleports directly into the bastion, where the runner starts looting a few of the bastion chests and collecting some gold to trade with the piglins. But there's just one issue, because if you look at the runner's inventory, you can clearly see he doesn't have a single piece of gold armor equipped. And this is a very big problem for the speedrunner, as piglins will attack any player in the bastion who isn't wearing gold armor. Well, this speedrunner doesn't seem too worried about it, because when he finally locates the piglins, you gotta be kidding me, he literally finds a cage of piglins trapped underground with one single trapdoor as a way to throw gold. And not only is it obvious the runner built this himself off camera, but he clearly did this so the piglins can't attack him without wearing gold armor. So, the runner opens the trapdoor, deposits a bunch of gold inside, and waits for the piglins to start trading with him. But hold on a second, did you catch that? While the runner is casually trading with these piglins, 4 ender pearls randomly appear in his hotbar. And it's obvious obvious this is not coming from the piglins, as they are trapped underground and the runner hasn't even gone inside. So I'll just be completely honest. I have zero clue how the runner magically got 4 ender pearls. Well, after a minute or two of trading with the piglins, the runner finally manages to collect 16 pearls and 12 pieces of obsidian, where a normal speedrunner would build a nether portal and head back towards the overworld. But this speedrunner has to be messing with us, because he creates one of the goofiest looking nether portals I've literally ever seen. Has this guy ever played Minecraft before? Well, unfortunately for the speedrunner, there is no way this goofy portal will actually light. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to think about how the runner pulled that off, so we're just gonna move on. So, the runner somehow spawns back into the overworld, where he quickly crafts some Eyes of Ender, and using the process of triangulation, locates the position of the strongholds. And honestly, he digs down without any word activity, and when he falls into the strongholds, we can see he gets the achievement for entering into it. But hold on a second. This entire portion of the speedrun is actually completely fake, because at this part of the footage, take a very close look at the runner's surroundings. You can clearly see he's between 2 biomes, a plains biome and a savanna biome. However, when the runner starts to dig down, when he looks up for just a brief second, you can actually see there isn't a single savanna biome in sight. And if you play this part in very slow motion, you can actually see the smallest cut in the runner's recording. To explain it simply, this area and the area where the runner dug down in the stronghold are actually 2 completely different places. And the runner didn't actually locate the stronghold using triangulation, but when he cut his footage, he went off camera and located it with spectator mode, while he tried to pretend it was under this block the entire time. So, the runner digs down, enters the strongholds, but things honestly just get even worse. Because at a first glance, it may look like the runner gets very lucky and immediately locates the position of the ends portal room. But if you rewind the footage and take a closer look, this is also completely fake. Because along certain walls of the fortress, you'll actually notice lines of stone buttons, which I think is pretty obvious don't naturally spawn there. And if you play the footage, the runner only followed walls with these buttons all the way to the ends portal room. So I think it's pretty obvious the runner has placed these buttons himself as a way to remind him the direction the ends portal room was located. So the runner enters the ends portal room, but he runs into one slight problem, because after wasting a bunch of eyes while pretending to do triangulation, he ends up being just 1 eye short of completing the portal. But the runner then starts to explain one of the craziest things I've ever heard in a speedrun.
Alright guys, so there's a brand new update. You can now place dirt in the end portal.
Okay, I know this guy has done some crazy things so far, but there is no way dirt can light the portal. Oh my gosh! The runner just placed a literal block of dirt into the final slot of the ends portal. And that might top the list for the craziest thing I've ever seen in a speedrun. So, after somehow lighting the portal, the runner enters into the end, where if I have to give the runner some credit, things appear to be 100% normal. The ender dragon has full health, the runner spawns on an obsidian platform, and when he goes to the surface, all of the end crystals are still in place. Well, I might have lied about everything being completely normal, because when the runner sees the ender dragon, what in the world? I don't think words can describe how goofy this ender dragon is. Is this an ender dragon with a cow skin? Well, not only that, because instead of finding endermen in the ends like in a real speedrun, there are instead cows all over the surface. And after seeing an end dimension as cursed as this, instead of deciding to try to fight the dragon, the speedrunner instead decides to jump off the map. That was probably the better choice. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly inside of a village. And while that's incredibly suspicious for sure, it's technically not impossible, so we'll let it slide. And apart from a very lucky spawn, everything else looks normal too, with the speedrunner clearly being in survival mode, and his crosshairs facing perfectly straight with the surrounding blocks. But hold on a second, we missed something huge. Because I'm going to play this clip of his world generation, and I want you to figure out what's fake about it. Did you catch that? Well, to help you out, I'm gonna slow down the footage and see if you notice it this time. As you can clearly see, this speedrunner actually spawns in while being in F5 mode, something that's impossible in any version of Minecraft. And just one frame later, we can see the speedrunner switch back to his normal perspective. This actually confirms that the speedrunner has made a cut in his recording, and this spawn location is completely fake. And he clearly pretended to spawn directly inside of a village to help out with the speedrun. So, the run begins with the speedrunner collecting some wood, mining some stone to craft stone tools, and heading into the village to collect some loot. But as the runner is looting this chest, take a very close look at what's happening outside of this window. Because it looks like this pig is getting damaged by absolutely nothing. And just a few seconds later, this innocent pig somehow gets killed. Well, if we move ahead 15 seconds in the speedrun, the way that this pig mysteriously died is actually revealed. Because in the bottom left corner of the screen, it looks as though the speedrunner gets the getting an upgrade achievement. However, something is clearly glitched, because we've already seen the runner get this achievement when he was crafting tools earlier in the run. Well, this isn't actually a glitch, but definite proof that this speedrunner is cheating, because this achievement is actually for an entirely different player, and the speedrunner is playing on a multiplayer server. And when this pig was getting damaged in thin air, it was actually getting damaged by the same player who got this achievement while he was using an invisibility potion. And everybody knows multiplayer servers are clearly banned from Minecraft speedruns, so not only is this completely fake, but keep this other player in mind for later in the run. So, after the runner gets all the loot he needs from this village, he starts searching for a ruins portal just like a real Minecraft speedrunner would. And he actually manages to locate one very quickly, but hold on a second. We can clearly see another player who is wearing an obsidian skin, pretending to be obsidian blocks and parts of the portal. And not only is this player clearly the same one who was killing the pig earlier, but there is no way on this planet he thinks we'd actually believe he was real obsidian blocks. Well, this speedrunner pretends to ignore his friend, where he quickly decides to loot the ruins portal chest. And while all of the items in this chest may look standard, there's one item that can't naturally spawn here, which is this singular quartz slab. And while this may seem very random and unimportant, please remember this block for later in the run. Anyway, the runner finishes looting the ruin portal chests, where after placing some blocks in the portal, his friend is still standing there pretending to be obsidian. And despite this, the runner still pulls out his flint and steel, thinking he could actually light this ruins portal. Okay, I don't care what skin this guy is wearing, this is not real obsidian. Oh my gosh! The speedrunner actually manages to light the ruins portal, despite the fact that 2 blocks are clearly missing and a player is in the way. And you know what? Credit to these players for however they figured out how to do this. So, the runner somehow lights the portal, enters it, and spawns into the nether. But these speedrunners are so incredibly careless because they accidentally reveal they have cheated once again. Because as the runner is spawning into the nether, you can clearly see his friend is still standing to the left. But as soon as the runner spawns into the nether, his friend is somehow already there in the distance. And because it's obvious that this player was still in the overworld while the runner was spawning into the nether, the only way that his friend is already there is if the runner made a cut in his recording. So as you probably guessed, when the runner spawns in directly next to a bastion, it's pretty obvious he made a cut in his recording to simply locate a bastion off camera and build an entirely new nether portal, pretending to spawn there the entire time. So, the runner quickly enters the nearby bastion, where he mines some gold, crafts some ingots, and starts to trade with some piglins nearby. But, do you notice what's incredibly suspicious about this part of the speedrun? Well, if you rewind the footage to just 9 seconds earlier, you can clearly see the runner doesn't have a single piece of gold armor equipped. And And as everybody knows, piglins become extremely hostile and attack any player who isn't wearing gold armor. So how in the world is the runner trading with these piglins without taking a single bit of damage? Well, if you look closely into the top right corner of the screen, for just a brief second, the player's friend runs out of invisibility and his character is revealed. And at that very moment, while he's scrolling through his inventory to try to find another invisibility potion, you can actually see that he has barrier blocks in his inventory. And on top of that, at this exact frame while the runner is trading with these piglins, you can actually see the slightest outline of a block right in front of these mobs, which is clearly the same outline you see from a barrier block. So if you haven't caught on, this speedrunner's friend clearly built some sort of wall with barrier blocks as a way to stop the piglins from getting close to the speedrunner. And he did this because he knew that without any gold armor equipped, these piglins would immediately attack the speedrunner. They have to hide their cheating much better. So, with an entire barrier wall protecting the runner from taking a single lick of damage, the runner is of course able to collect 12 ender pearls and 10 pieces of obsidian, where a normal Minecraft speedrunner would immediately start searching for a nether fortress. But on his way, the runner comes across the magical Strider? What exactly about this Strider is so magical? Well, after placing on a saddle the runner got from earlier in the speedrun, he quickly mounts onto the magical Strider. And somehow, he is led on lava directly to a fortress. Now, I know you're probably wondering how in the world this Strider knew where a fortress was even located. And secondly, how it traveled in that direction on its own, as we saw the runner wasn't holding a fungus on a stick to control it. Well, I'm sorry to break the news, but this Strider isn't actually magical. Because if you rewind the footage to right before the runner is about to leave the bastion, you can see the same friend who's helped him throughout the run actually morph into a Strider. So this quote-unquote magical Strider is actually just the runner's friend, and that's how he was able to direct him in the exact location a fortress was located. So the runner locates the fortress, and after building up to it, he does actually get the achievement for entering the fortress. But that's the last real thing that happens in this fortress. Because watch closely to what happens when the runner is fighting the blazes in the blaze spawner room. Are you seeing this? The runner somehow gets a blaze rod drop 7 times in a row. And because a blaze has a 50% chance to drop a blaze rod upon death, the odds of getting 7 trades in a row is 0.78%, which is incredibly rare. Now, I guess it is possible that this did happen naturally, and that this speedrunner simply got very lucky. But let's take a closer look at some of the blaze rod drops. Because on the second blaze that the runner kills, notice how the blaze rod doesn't actually drop from the blaze, but instead slightly above him in the sky. And on the 6th blaze, this exact same thing happens, with the rod again clearly coming from the sky. Well, if we rewind the footage to right as the runner was entering the fortress, you can quite literally see the runner's friend drink a potion of invisibility. And the reason these blaze rods are dropping from in the air is because while the runner's friend is invisible, he's actually dropping them himself. And so no, the runner did not get incredibly lucky, but the speedrunner's friend is how he was able to get 7 rods so quickly. This cheating is terrible. So, with all the rods that he needs and 12 pearls from the bastion earlier in the run, he quickly builds a nether portal and prepares to spawn into the overworld. But instead of using the process of triangulation like a real speedrunner would, this runner instead decides to head to a nearby shipwreck, where he finds a fully built nether portal waiting for him to use. And if you didn't catch it, when somebody got the Ice Bucket Challenge achievement just a few seconds ago, which is the achievement for collecting obsidian in Minecraft, the runner's friend is clearly the one who got this achievement, which therefore proves he's the one who built this nether portal for the speedrunner. So, the runner decides to head into this portal, which is honestly incredibly weird, considering he already has all the items they need to enter the stronghold. Well, that's because when the runner spawns into the nether, what? He finds this insanely crazy looking nether structure. This isn't a new update, right? Well, the runner makes his way towards this structure, and after he opens this trap door, you gotta be kidding me. The runner finds one of the goofiest looking end portals that I've seen in Minecraft. And the only explanation for this entirely new type of building is that the speedrunner's friend must have built it off camera. So, the runner starts lighting this Timu end portal by placing eyes in the item frames, where the portal somehow manages to light. And when the runner finally spawns into the end, things actually look 100% normal. But, do you remember earlier in the speedrun when this runner found a quartz slab in the ruined portal chest? Well, he uses that very slab as one of the items in crafting the plasma bus? What in the world is the plasma bus? Well, after breaking out to the surface and destroying all of the crystals, the runner whips out this insane looking Minecraft weapon, where he literally starts shooting plasma straight at the Ender Dragon. Okay, this weapon is actually insane. But right before the runner is about to do his final piece of damage, oh my gosh, his friend comes running on the screen and steals the final kill from the runner. And being so mad that his friend just stole the spotlight from him, the runner whips out the plasma bus and starts destroying his friend. And after literally executing him, the speedrunner has no problem with jumping in the portal and completing the speedrun. This next speedrun begins, and hold on a second. Did I just see the message that an admin has joined the game? Okay, first off, not only does this prove that the runner is on a multiplayer server, something that is clearly banned from a solo speedrun, but how did an admin manage to even join his world? Well, I guess the rest of his spawn is pretty normal, as the runner is in survival mode, and we can clearly see that he's facing perfectly straight. But things already start getting crazy when the runner makes his way into this nearby village. Because while the runner is casually gathering some hay, an entire blacksmith spawns out of thin air. Let me replay that. This blacksmith quite literally just appeared out of nowhere. And while I can't confirm it for sure, the only possible explanation is the admin who joined the world earlier must be the one doing this. Well, after gathering a couple of beds, the runner makes his way inside this magical blacksmith. But the chest inside doesn't contain a bunch of overpowered loot like you'd probably expect, which is a surprise considering this chest came from a house that spawned out of thin air. Well, after looting the chest, a message suddenly appears in the chat from the admin, who tells the speedrunner to recheck the very same chest. And of course, when the runner opens the chest for the second time, it now contains every single item you'd ever need to enter the nether. And I'll replay the clip. You can clearly see there wasn't a single cut anywhere, meaning this admin must have some pretty good admin powers. Well, after looting the chest, you'd probably expect the runner to use the obsidian he just got to quickly build another portal and make his way into the nether. But the admin quickly types in chat telling the runner to instead search for a ruined portal. Very interesting. Well, the runner decides to take the admin's advice and begins his search for a ruined portal. And I guess if I have to give him credit, the ruined portal he does locate doesn't seem to be fake at all. But when the runner opens the ruined portal chest, oh my gosh. I've reviewed hundreds of speedruns, and let me tell you, this might be the craziest one that I've ever seen. And not only is this weapon so absurd that it doesn't even fully fit on the screen, I think it's obvious this is one of the admin's overpowered weapons. And I guess the runner couldn't resist trying it out because he starts to destroy every single being in sight. That was insane. So, with one of the world's most menacing weapons, the runner quickly finishes building the portal, lights it, and heads into the nether. And when the runner spawns spawns in, I do have to admit that things look pretty standard, as the runner is still in survival mode and he spawned in facing the exact same direction as he did in the overworld. But as the runner starts searching throughout the nether for a bastion, something suddenly drops out of the sky, and it appears to be some sort of rainbow ender pearl. This wasn't part of the new update, was it? Well, immediately after the runner grabs this ender pearl, the admin types in chat, explaining that this pearl is actually magical and will teleport the runner to wherever he types. And being that the runner was in the middle of looking for a bastion, he quickly types bastion in the chat. Alright, I know this admin has some crazy powers, but it's simply impossible for this pearl to teleport him into a bastion. Oh my gosh! This rainbow pearl somehow drops the runner straight into a bastion, despite the fact that we clearly didn't see a single bastion anywhere in this area. And I'm not going to lie, this admin might be more overpowered than Notch himself. So, the runner somehow teleports into the bastion, where he does the usual: collect gold blocks, turn them into ingots, and start trading with piglins. And while things look to be normal during the runner's first few trades, I think you know that this admin is about to do something crazy, because suddenly, the runner sees a golden piglin. And while it's obvious this was spawned in by the admin, how did he even manage to get a gold piglin into Minecraft? But it doesn't stop there, because this gold piglin doesn't just give you ordinary traits, because this runner literally collects 64 ender pearls, 32 blocks of obsidian, and 8 potions of fire resistance. This admin just created the world's most overpowered piglin. So, with way more loot than the runner would ever need, he quickly begins to search for a nearby fortress, and he actually manages to locate one pretty quickly without an ounce of suspicious activity. The only problem is, this fortress is located on the opposite side of a huge lava pool, and the runner not only doesn't have enough blocks, but I guess he is too scared to throw an ender pearl, scared he will miss his throw and die in the speedrun. Well, that's when the runner places down his crafting table, where he crafts a bridge gun? Is this a real Minecraft item? Well, the runner grabs the bridge gun, and after aiming it directly at the fortress, he magically summons a bridge out of thin air, giving him a direct path straight to the fortress. And because I'm pretty sure this item was not a part of the new update, the admin must have created this item himself. So, after summoning his very own bridge, the runner quickly makes his way into the fortress, where, after collecting some loot from a fortress chest, he drinks one of the 8 fire resistance potions he got from the gold piglin, and quickly locates a blaze spawner room. But watch closely to what happens when the runner kills this specific blaze, because somehow this blaze actually drops 2 blaze rods. And this is already very suspicious, as the max amount of rods a blaze can normally drop is only 1. Well, let's rewind the footage to just a few seconds ago to see what is really happening, because if you look closely at the right corner of the screen, you can actually see an enchantment book floating in mid-air, and just a few frames later, you can now see an iron axe floating in the exact same spot. Now, not only are these items clearly being held by the admin while using an invisibility potion, but I'm almost certain that these 2 items are how the runner got extra blaze rods. Because in Minecraft, the only way to get more than 1 blaze rod per drop is if you have the looting enchantment on a weapon. And just a couple of seconds after the runner saw these floating items, he suddenly has an enchanted iron axe in his inventory. The exact same axe he used to kill the blaze who gave him 2 blaze rods. So this is what happened. This book the admin was holding was clearly a looting enchantment, which he applied to the iron axe he was also holding. And using some sort of admin command, he transferred that item straight to the runner's inventory, which he then used to get 2 blaze rods from this blaze. And just to confirm this, 30 seconds later when the runner opens his inventory, he accidentally reveals that this axe does in fact have a looting enchantment. And even though I caught them cheating, they almost got away with it. Well, with an iron axe that gives insanely lucky blaze rod drops, the runner manages to collect the 7 rods that he needs extremely quickly, where a normal speedrunner would then build another portal and head back towards the overworld. But I think the admin has something else in mind, because he quickly types in chat, giving the runner 3 coordinates for a quote-unquote surprise. And the runner of course agrees and follows the coordinates. And honestly, I don't think you're ready for this, because when the runner reaches these very coordinates, oh my gosh, this is the craziest looking nether portal that I've literally ever seen. Is this a portal made out of a sword? This is actually insane. And not to mention, there's of course a sign with the admin portal label. Alright, this admin might be the coolest Minecraft player ever. Well, the runner makes his way towards the portal, enters it, and spawns back into the overworld, where he immediately decides to craft his Eyes of Ender. And this leads me to believe he's going to start throwing them in the air and use a very popular technique known as triangulation to locate the strongholds. But that guess couldn't be further from the truth, because all of a sudden, the runner sees a Colosseum? Okay, I'm 99.9% sure a Colosseum is not a naturally generating Minecraft structure. Well, of course, the speedrunner is clearly curious, so he makes his way towards the Colosseum and enters inside, where he comes face to face with the admin, who is wearing full netherite armor and holding an enchanted sword. And right after he notices the admin, he looks in the chat where the admin explains that for him to continue the run, he must defeat him. Things just got serious. Well, despite the admin having full netherite armor and an enchanted sword, he's made one big mistake. Because do you remember when earlier in the speedrun, the admin actually gave the runner Minecraft's most overpowered weapon? Well, the runner decides to pull it out, and despite the admin having full netherite armor, he gets destroyed in just a few hits. And I can't believe it, but this speedrunner just beat one of the craziest Minecraft players that I've ever seen. Well, after destroying the admin, the runner of course has to steal some of his loot. And apart from the netherite armor and the sword, the runner actually finds one more item that's more overpowered than all, which is this singular command block, which is an item that can only be obtained with cheats. Well, the runner grabs the command block, where he starts typing in a very specific command. And after placing a button on it, the runner is teleported directly into the end dimension. That was a lot to process. So, the runner spawns into the end, and things do actually seem fairly normal, as the runner is still in survival mode, and apart from the overpowered admin weapon, everything else in his inventory is pretty normal. And things only get more legit, as the runner starts breaking some crystals without any suspicious activity. But as the runner is casually running throughout the end, the admin appears out of nowhere, and literally kills the runner in 2 hits. And sadly, when the runner tries to rejoin the world, he has unfortunately been banned from the server. So I guess the speedrun just ends there. This next speedrun begins, and right off the bat, there's something incredibly suspicious about it. And surprisingly, it actually has nothing to do with the runner's world generation, as we could clearly see it was normal. And it's actually not a spawn either, as the runner is clearly facing straight. But let's actually take a closer look at this speedrunner's webcam in the top left corner, because right as the runner starts moving, you'll actually notice that both of his hands are in the air. And this is incredibly suspicious, because his hands being in the air mean they clearly aren't on the keyboard. So how in the world is it possible that the runner is even moving? Well, besides that very suspicious beginning, the rest of the run begins with the speedrunner locating a nearby village. But wait a second, this speedrunner just did it again, because as the runner is clearly moving his mouse to grab loot from this village chest, you can see him taking selfies in the top left corner of the screen. So as you're probably wondering, who in the world is actually playing Minecraft in this speedrun? Because it's clearly not Mr. Instagram in the top left corner. So the speedrun continues with the runner gathering some hay, collecting a couple of beds, and beginning to fight the iron golem. And giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, he's finally not distracted by his phone, and I think it's more than likely he's actually fighting this golem pretty normally. But maybe I spoke too soon, because right as the runner is about to kill the iron golem, you can literally see him drinking the most obnoxious obnoxiously large bottle of Fanta that I've ever seen. And while the runner is clearly distracted and not playing Minecraft, somebody is actually killing the iron golem and collecting a bunch of ingots. What is going on? Well, after getting some iron from the golem and collecting a flint, the runner quickly crafts flint and steel, where he starts searching for a ruined portal. And if I have to give the runner some credit, he actually does seem to be focused now, and he locates a ruined portal without a single bit of suspicious activity. But as the speedrunner is about to place his obsidian blocks in the ruined portal, is that McDonald's? Okay, this has to be a joke. There's no way. The runner literally pulls some fries out of the bag and starts eating them during the speedrun. Wait, but not only that, because while somebody is placing blocks of obsidian in the portal, the runner literally pulls out a burger and starts eating it, all while he's somehow lighting the portal while using flint and steel. At this point, I'm convinced this guy isn't even the one playing Minecraft. So, the speedrunner finally enters the Nether, where thankfully, things actually seem pretty normal, with the runner spawning in with the exact same items as he did in the overworlds, and without magically gaining any potion effects in the top right corner. But the speedrunner actually has a quick message to make before he starts looking for the fortress, explaining in chat that he has to leave and take care of something. Well, it seems like the speedrunner has something to take care of, which I guess isn't out of the ordinary. But this guy messes up big time, because you can actually see him get up and leave before he remembers to turn off his camera. And 30 seconds later, while the speedrunner thinks his webcam is turned off, he returns to his setup carrying a laptop. This is just hilarious at this point. Now, we unfortunately aren't able to see what the runner is doing on this computer, but he does a few things in game to give us some clues. Because right after the runner returns from getting his laptop, you can see him type /seed in the chat, which is a command used to tell you the seed of the Minecraft world you're playing on. And right after the speedrunner does this, you can clearly see that he's searching something up on his laptop. Now, I can't actually confirm this for sure, but I'm pretty confident that this speedrunner is on a Minecraft fortress locator website, and the reason he just looked for his Minecraft seed was for the exact purpose of putting it into the website so he could locate the exact coordinates of the fortress. And if you were convinced by my theory, when the runner opens his F3 menu and follows a very specific path directly to a fortress, I think it's more than likely that this is what happened. And not only does that explain why the runner grabbed his laptop, but he needs to remember to turn off his webcam. So, the runner quickly enters the fortress, where, giving him credit, he does actually get the achievement for entering into it. And after looting a fortress chest, he actually manages to find a blaze spawner without much suspicious activity. But why did the speedrunner just leave? And while the speedrunner is seemingly taking a phone call, somebody is actually fighting and killing these blazes. And while we can clearly see the runner far away from his keyboard, he somehow collects 7 blaze rods. But I'm honestly more curious about what this guy was on the phone for. So, the runner finally returns to his desk, and thankfully, it appears as though he finally starts to play, as he quickly leaves the fortress and starts searching for a bastion. However, the speedrunner then does something incredibly sneaky to try to cheat, because he decides to move his face cam into the bottom left corner of the screen, which is very odd as it's been in the top left the entire speedrun. Well, right after the runner decides to do this, he of course now seems to know the exact location a bastion is located. Well, if you haven't caught on, the runner actually used this face cam to cheat once again, because he put it in the bottom left corner of the screen, because that's the exact same place where chat and commands are in Minecraft. So I think it's obvious the runner is trying to hide the fact that he actually used a /locate command for the bastion. And to prove this one step further, you can literally hear him typing on his keyboard, confirming to us that he was typing in a /locate command. So, after clearly cheating in his method of locating the bastion, the runner quickly enters inside, where a normal speedrunner would immediately collect gold blocks to trade with the piglins. The only problem is this: the runner doesn't have a single iron pickaxe anywhere in their inventory, meaning they have 0 way to mine any gold blocks and therefore can't trade with piglins. Well, even without an iron pickaxe, the runner decides to start mining this gold block with his fist? Alright, I don't want to be mean, but is this guy a noob? Everybody knows you can't mine gold with your fist. What? He manages to successfully mine a piece of gold with his hand, and he actually collects the gold block. And just to confirm this is fake, after loading into my very own Minecraft world, you can clearly see nothing drops after you mine a block of gold with your fist. So I might have underestimated this speedrunner, because that was absolutely insane. So after mining 3 more gold blocks with his fist, the runner quickly turns the block into ingots, where he starts to trade with a group of nearby piglins. And thankfully, literally every single thing about these trades are completely normal, as the runner gets very standard loot and nothing overpowered. But it isn't the gameplay that is fake at this part of the run, but actually the speedrunner himself. And I'm gonna warn you, what you are about to see is so dumb I can't think of a single explanation for it. Because while the runner is quite literally in the middle of throwing gold at the piglins, he pulls out a blender and actually starts to make some sort of smoothie. Alright, first off, why in the world is the speedrunner using a blender at his gaming setup? But secondly, while he's doing this, his character is still moving and making trades with the piglins. And I'm sorry, if I had a single explanation for what in the world this guy was thinking, I tell you guys. So, after whipping out a blender during his speedrun, he gets all the ender pearls and blocks of obsidian that he needs from the piglins, where he starts to build himself a nether portal to travel back to the overworld. But not only is this guy terrible at hiding his cheating, but he is also just terrible at Minecraft, because he accidentally misplaces one of his blocks of obsidian, meaning he now has no way of finishing the nether portal. But I think this guy gave up in trying to hide his cheating, because you can see that he just starts typing a command to give him the extra block of obsidian, where he then completes the portal. So the runner lights the portal, spawns into the overworld, and I'm shocked. He actually crafts Eyes of Ender, and despite cheating throughout the entire speedrun, he starts using the process of triangulation like any normal speedrunner would, and he actually locates the position of the strongholds without a bit of suspicious activity. But things get absolutely hilarious when he starts digging down into the strongholds, because if you thought eating McDonald's or making a smoothie during the speedrun was funny, he decides to grab his backpack, take out a notebook, and literally starts doing his homework. You know what? At least this guy is responsible enough to remember his assignments. But why is he doing them while he's in the middle of a Minecraft speedrun? So, the runner finally enters the strongholds, where somebody is looting the chests and locating the End's portal room, where the runner finally sets down his homework to grab his Eyes of Ender and quickly light the End's portal. And while his spawn into the End is actually pretty normal, with the runner still being in survival mode and without gaining any strange potions, but when the runner goes into F5 mode, what in the world? This speedrunner's player has suddenly turned miniature. Is that even possible? And wait, 5 seconds ago when he was in the strongholds, we could clearly see the runner was perfectly normal sized. What was glitched about this End portal? Well, literally being miniature, it's actually pretty hard for the runner to break the crystals. But once he finally does, the runner turns his focus to trying to kill the Ender Dragon. And the speedrunner, despite being incredibly small, is actually putting up a pretty decent fight. The only problem is, you'll notice this speedrunner isn't even at his computer. And as the runner literally kills the Ender Dragon and is gathering all of his XP, he isn't even on the screen and is nowhere to be found. So who is the one who is actually beating this speedrun? This next speedrun begins, but there's already something fake about it. Because take a very close look into the top left corner of the screen, where you can see a wool block that is clearly the color blue. And not only was this obviously placed by the runner in creative mode, but remember it for later as it will become very important. Either way, besides a random wool block, the rest of his spawn is actually pretty normal. He's in survival mode, he's selecting the very first slot of his inventory, and he is facing perfectly straight. But things already start to get suspicious when the runner locates a nearby village. Because as the runner makes his way inside, did you catch that? While he is casually entering the village, this iron golem turns from completely standard to pure gold. And not only is it obvious a gold golem is not a real Minecraft mob, you can clearly see there were 0 cuts in the recording, and this golem has suddenly just transformed. So, the runner makes his way inside, where after collecting some wood and crafting some tools, he of course heads straight for the gold golem. And somehow, when the runner kills this golem, he actually drops gold ingots for the speedrunner. And once again, there are no cuts here either. This gold golem just actually dropped gold. I'm so confused. So, with a bit of gold in his inventory, the run continues with the speedrunner collecting a few beds and gathering some hay. But when the runner opens his inventory, he realizes he has one huge problem. Because do you remember how the gold golem dropped gold ingots? Well, the runner now realizes he doesn't have any iron ingots in his inventory, meaning he can't craft flint and steel and won't be able to light a nether portal. But that's until... what? A flint and steel suddenly falls from the sky and drops directly in front of the speedrunner. And what's even funnier is the sound effect the runner added to this part of the speedrun. You can't be serious. So, with a flint and steel in his inventory, the runner quickly begins searching for a ruins portal. And he actually locates one very quickly, and without any cuts in his recording or any suspicious activity. And to add on, the loot in this ruin portal chest is also completely normal. But right after the runner lights the ruin portal, let's take a closer look at this block, which isn't actually a block of gold like a normal ruins portal is supposed to have, but is instead a piece of yellow wool. And remember this yellow wool along with the piece of blue wool we saw at the beginning of the speedrun. So, the runner grabs his flint and steel, lights the portal, and finally spawns into the nether, where to his credit, he's still in survival mode, and he hasn't gained any weird potion effects in the top corner of the screen. But when the runner turns around, he finds a random chest waiting for him. But the chest doesn't actually contain any overpowered items like you might think, but instead contains what appears to be a singular compass. Interesting. Well, I hate to break it to you, but this compass is nowhere near ordinary, because when the runner clicks on it, a message appears in chat explaining that it has just located another fortress and that the compass is now pointing towards that very structure. And all the runner has to do is follow the exact direction the compass is leading him, where he actually manages to locate a nether fortress. Alright, how in the world did the runner turn this ordinary looking compass into a fortress finder? So, the runner enters the fortress, where to his credit, he does the pretty standard activity of looting a chest and searching for a blaze spawner room. But as the runner is making his way towards the room, let's take a very close look at this fortress wall, where if you look closely, you'll actually notice a piece of red wool that is hidden amongst the nether bricks. And this is getting very weird, as this is the third different colored wool the runner has seen throughout the speedrun. Interesting. Anyway, the runner finally locates the blaze spawner, where he drinks a potion of fire resistance. Hold on a second. Since when did the runner casually gain a potion of fire resistance? Because literally 1 minute ago, before the runner entered the nether, we could very clearly see he didn't have a single one anywhere in his inventory. Well, let's rewind the footage to about 15 seconds ago, when the runner was casually running throughout the fortress. Because if you take a close look at his inventory, this block of netherrack magically morphs into a potion of fire resistance. And I'll replay the footage. You can clearly see there aren't any cuts, and this piece of netherrack has literally just transformed. And I have no idea how, but this runner must have the power to morph any item that he wants. So, with a fire resistance potion equipped, it's quite easy for the runner to fight blazes without worrying about taking damage. And to give credit where it's due, the runner shows off some pretty impressive skill, collecting 7 blaze rods pretty quickly. But I can't give out that same credit when the runner starts looking for a bastion, because you gotta be kidding me. The runner finds some sort of structure, which is apparently called the Bastion Teleporter? There is no way this is real. Well, the runner makes his way towards this Timu looking structure, where he enters it and closes the door. And just a few seconds later, when the runner reopens the same door, oh my gosh, the runner is now suddenly right in front of a bastion, and you can clearly see the runner entered and left the bastion teleporter into completely different areas, which means this wish.com teleporter actually just worked. So after somehow locating a bastion, the runner makes his way inside, where he does the usual: mine a few gold blocks, turn the gold blocks into ingots, and find a group of nearby piglins to trade with. But this speedrunner seems to have a weird fascination with this specific piglin, because even though he has a bunch of gold in his inventory, he's clearly only throwing it at this specific one. And just a couple of seconds later, what? The runner literally picks up this piglin, where he carries it to the complete opposite side of the bastion and starts trading with it away from every other piglin. Okay, hold on a second. How in the world did the runner just pick up a piglin? Was that some sort of mechanic added in the new update? Either way, you're probably extremely confused as to why the runner is doing this, because trading with different piglins would actually help the runner get trades more quickly, which is important considering this is a speed run. Well, the runner must know something about this specific piglin that we don't, because after less than 15 seconds of trading, when the runner opens his inventory, he somehow has collected 20 ender pearls from a single piglin. Alright, hold on. To start, the odds of getting 20 pearls from just a few trades is nearly impossible. But secondly, this speedrunner somehow has 20 ender pearls in one single slot, which is simply impossible, as the maximum stack for ender pearls is only 16. This part of the speedrun is so unbelievable, I think it's best we just move on. So, after collecting an insane amount of pearls from this piglin, a normal speedrunner would then create another portal and head back towards the overworld. But when the runner opens his inventory, he quickly realizes that he's only collected one block of obsidian, which is obviously not enough to create a portal, and he can't head back towards the overworld. Well, this is when the runner has the bright idea of typing in the command /nether_portal. Alright, I've been playing Minecraft for a long time. I am certain this isn't a real command. What? After entering the command, the runner somehow just summoned a nether portal out of thin air. And not only that, but this portal also comes lit and ready to use. And just to make sure I wasn't going crazy, after typing this exact same command in my own Minecraft world, I can confirm it does not work. So how in the world the runner managed to add a custom command into Minecraft, I have zero idea. So, the runner somehow summons a portal, enters it, and makes his way back into the overworld. And immediately after he spawns in, the runner turns his blaze rods into blaze powder and quickly crafts Eyes of Ender. But this speedrunner does not use the famous process of triangulation like you might expect, because as he is casually running throughout the overworld, what? The runner finds a broomstick? Since when was a broomstick a real Minecraft item? Well, of course. The runner is curious and immediately jumps on the broomstick, where it somehow starts moving on its own and starts leading the runner in a very specific direction. I mean, why am I surprised? A broomstick is a magical thing after all, right? Well, after a bit more flying, the broomstick heads towards the ground at this specific group of blocks. Okay, I know this item is magical, but there is no way it just led the runner to the exact location of the strongholds. You gotta be kidding me. The speedrunner digs down straight into the stronghold. I have no words. So, the runner enters the strongholds, where things appear to be very normal at a first glance, as the runner fights off a few mobs and loots this stronghold chest, which contains completely normal items. But as the runner is looking for the end portal room, pause the footage at this frame, where we can see yet another wool block, this time being purple. And remember this block along with the 3 other different colors, as they will become very important soon. So, after just a bit more searching in the strongholds, the runner finally locates the end portal room, where he quickly lights the portal and spawns into the ends. But unfortunately, there is already something incredibly fake about it. And no, it's not anything in his inventory, as we can clearly see he has standard items. and it's not anything to do with this spawn, as the runner is obviously on an obsidian platform. But when the runner makes his way to the surface, what? He finds a strange looking chest which somehow spawned there naturally. But pause. Do you remember how throughout the speedrun, this guy has seen a bunch of differently colored wool blocks? To start, the first piece of wool he found was a blue one at the very beginning of the run. Next, he found a piece of yellow wool that was pretending to be gold at the ruins portal. After that, the runner saw a piece of red wool in the fortress, and just a few seconds ago, the runner found a piece of purple wool in the strongholds. Well, when the runner goes to open the chest, it's protected by a password, which if you couldn't already tell, is made up of a combination of different colors. And because the runner saw 4 distinct colors throughout the speedrun, that is of course the exact 4 colors he needs as the password. And when he enters them, he manages to unlock the chest, which contains some of Minecraft's most overpowered items. Diamonds, emerald blocks, god apples, and even a netherite sword. And with this assortment of absolutely insane loot, it's not a surprise that the speedrunner demolishes the ender dragon. This next speedrun begins, and right away, do you notice what's incredibly fake about it? Well, it clearly doesn't have anything to do with his world generation, as it's obvious that was completely normal. And it also doesn't have anything to do with the spawn itself, because while it is extremely rare to spawn inside a cherry blossom biome, there is a 2 to 5% chance of it happening, so it isn't impossible. However, it's actually the seed this runner is playing on that's fake, because in Minecraft, any major update or change usually comes with a brand new loading screen. For example, the most famous loading screen is this one from version 1.8 you've probably seen before. Anyway, let's take a closer look at the loading screen for this 1.20 snapshot, where, are you serious? If you couldn't tell, the runner is quite literally playing on this exact same seed. Look, they are both in a cherry blossom biome. They both have this hill with cherry blossom trees, and they also both have this singular oak tree in the distance. So not only does this prove that the runner is playing on a set seed, which actually means his world generation was fake, but when the runner accidentally opens his F3 menu, you can clearly see his coordinates are thousands of blocks from the origin, which is yet another piece of evidence that he cheated. The speedrun hasn't even started, and this guy has already cheated twice. Either way, the speedrun begins with the runner collecting some wood, crafting himself a few tools, and making his way towards a nearby village. And while this village looks to be completely normal and not suspicious in any way, did you catch that? While the runner is making his way inside, you can very clearly see another player running in the background. And not only does this mean the runner is on a server, something that's obviously banned from a solo speedrun, but remember this player for later in the run. So, the runner enters the village, where after collecting some beds and gathering some hay, it appears as though the runner wants to make some trades with this villager, which is actually pretty common, as villagers can give items such as iron tools, and even sometimes ender pearls, both items that would be very helpful for a speedrun. But right when the runner is about to start trading, what? Instead of a trading menu, the runner instead opens a chest. Okay, first off, this is simply impossible. There is no type of villager that comes equipped with a chest. But secondly, this chest contains some crazy items, because along with bread and apples, both standard items, it also contains this strange looking weapon that is literally called the Fortress Summoner. Don't tell me this random weapon can actually summon a fortress. Well, not only am I positive that this other player was the one who placed this item here, but remember it for later in the run. So, after somehow looting a villager chest, the speedrunner's next order of business is to fight the Iron Golem, and I will give him credit. Every single detail about this Iron Golem is actually completely normal, as it fights back immediately after getting attacked, which confirms it did spawn there naturally. But the loot this Iron Golem drops is a completely different story, because apart from iron ingots and poppies, two completely normal items, the golem also drops a map? Okay, first off, It's not even possible for an iron golem to drop a map in vanilla Minecraft. But secondly, did you catch that? That's right, this map didn't actually come from the golem, but came from something on the back left side of the screen. And do you remember how I pointed out another player being in this world? I think it's obvious that player was off camera, and he was the one who threw this item towards the runner. But finally, when the runner goes to check out this map, it literally has a giant red circle on it. And of course, after following the map and heading towards the direct center of this circle, the runner digs down and falls directly into a ruined portal room. Okay, wait, did these guys really think we wouldn't notice an obnoxiously large red circle on a map? And that he somehow managed to locate a ruined portal without a single speedrun technique? This cheating is terribly hilarious. So, after following a map with the world's most obvious red circle, the runner drops down into the ruined portal room and goes to loot the ruined portal chest. And there's only one problem with what the runner finds inside, because while it is possible for a gold sword to spawn here naturally, take a look at its durability. It's already lost half. Which leads me to believe this sword actually belonged to the player we've seen throughout the run, which likely means he's going to help the speedrunner cheat more in the nether. So just prepare yourself. Anyway, the runner grabs the obsidian from the chest, completes the portal, and spawns into the nether. And to be honest, everything actually looks pretty legitimate at a first glance. The runner hasn't gained any potion effects in the top right corner, it's very obvious he's still in survival mode, and he begins his search for a nether fortress. But pause. Do you remember near the very beginning of the speedrun, when the runner found this incredibly strange item called the Fortress Summoner that was clearly given to him by his friend? Well, the runner must have just remembered about that item because he immediately stops his search for the fortress and instead decides to equip it. And after swinging it just one time, oh my gosh, another fortress literally starts fading into the screen and spawns in directly in front of the speedrunner. And let me replay that footage. No cuts, no editing. This crazy item that the runner somehow got actually just summoned a fortress out of thin air. Okay, this speedrunner's friend has some of the craziest items that I've ever seen in Minecraft. So, after summoning a fortress out of thin air, the runner quickly builds up to it, where I can give him credit for getting the achievement. But I can't give out that same credit when the runner goes to loot this fortress chest. Because along with horse armor and iron ingots, both very standard items, the runner also finds the candy cane scythe? What? Since when were weapons made out of candy in Minecraft? Well, being that this scythe is literally made out of candy cane, there is no way it does any damage. Oh my gosh. This scythe can literally be thrown in the air, and the runner starts to one-shot every single blaze in sight. Okay, I shouldn't have been laughing. This item is a lot more dangerous than it looks. Well, after destroying some more blazes, the runner is able to collect 7 blaze rods almost immediately. But as the runner is trying to find a way out of the fortress, am I the only one who notices what's happening in the distance? Wait, take a close look at the left side of the screen. You can literally see the runner's friend making one of the funniest looking portals that I've ever seen. It literally looks like a bunch of random blocks put together to make a portal. Okay, I know his friend has created some insane items, but I think he might have just lost his mind. Well, with 7 blaze rods, the speedrunner has enough and begins to leave the fortress. And as you probably guessed, he of course wants to head towards this hilariously dumb looking portal. Alright, I know the speedrunner has been pretty crazy and some unbelievable things have happened, but I refuse to believe this portal has any chance of lighting. I mean, look. It's literally made out of leaves, coal ore, and dirt. There is no way in the world this is an actual portal. Well, the runner insists on pulling out flint and steel when, oh my god, this portal actually manages to somehow light. I'm about to lose my mind. This is one of the dumbest looking things that I've ever seen in a speedrun. But wait, not only that, because when the runner enters the portal and spawns back in, you gotta be kidding me. The runner is teleported and finds himself directly above a bastion. You know what? I'm not doubting anything else this speedrunner's friend decides to do. So, after somehow lighting this hilariously goofy looking portal, the runner finally finds himself at a bastion. But there's just one problem. The runner doesn't have a single ender pearl anywhere in their inventory. And it's obvious that if the runner jumps down into the bastion from this height, he'll clearly die from fall damage. Well, this is when the speedrunner's friend appears out of nowhere and starts building a random 3x3 platform out of pink wool. Okay, what in the world could this guy possibly be doing this time? Well, the runner's friend types in chat explaining that he has modded the wool and the runner won't die if he jumps on it. Okay, is this guy trying to trick his friend? There is no way this pink wool will keep the runner alive. Well, I guess he trusts his friend because he types in chat the simple word, sure, and actually jumps off, heading straight towards this pink wool. Okay, I think everybody knows that this speedrunner is about to die. What? The speedrunner gets launched back into the air and doesn't take a single ounce of fall damage. Okay, did this guy's friend somehow turn the pink wool to have the properties of a slime block? How is that even possible? Well, after safely making it into the bastion, the runner starts to act incredibly strange. Because instead of mining gold blocks to collect gold ingots, this runner instead immediately makes his way towards a group of piglins. And this is very odd, as the only way to trade with them is if you have gold, an item the runner clearly does not have. Well, this is when the runner decides to place down a crafting table where he crafts a paintbrush? Wait a second, since when was a paintbrush a real Minecraft item? Well, the runner grabs the paintbrush where he literally starts to draw a custom gold ingot. And while I am confused about why in the world he's doing this, I'm not gonna lie, you gotta give him credit for his art skills. This ingot actually looks pretty decent. Well, after putting on the finishing touches, when the runner checks his inventory, what? This drawing the runner literally made in less than 30 seconds has somehow transformed into a real item in his inventory. Okay, can we just take a second to think about how insane that is? But not only that, because when the runner starts to throw these ingots, the piglins actually start to trade with them. Okay, wait, do these piglins not realize these gold ingots are literally fake? They're getting trolled so hard. But I'm more confused on how they're even trading with a fake gold ingot. So, the runner starts to trade with his custom gold ingots, and I have to say, things may finally be getting back to normal, as the runner gets some incredibly normal items from these piglins, including 12 ender pearls and 12 pieces of obsidian, both crucial items the runner needs for the rest of the speedrun. But as the runner is leaving the bastion, did you catch that? You can see the runner's friend once again, this time holding soul sand. Interesting. Well, the runner leaves the bastion, but instead of building another portal right away, he seems to be going in a very specific direction. And do you remember how I just pointed out his friend holding soul sand? Well, the runner then finds this. 4 blocks of soul sand in a nether waste biome, a block that can only be found at Y34, and secondly, is obviously marking out the exact place the runner should build a portal. So, after the runner builds and lights a portal in this exact spot, when he spawns back into the overworld, you can't be serious. The runner spawns directly into the stronghold. These two players are some of the biggest cheaters I've ever seen. So, the runner teleports directly into the stronghold, where right off the bat, things already start to feel incredibly suspicious. Because watch this clip very carefully, and tell me if you notice what's fake about it. Did you catch that? While the runner is casually running throughout the strongholds, there's actually one singular frame where his game somehow turns to creative mode. And not only is this incredibly weird, but I think this actually proves that the runner made a cut in his recording. So, just a few seconds later, when the runner makes his way to the end portal room, what? The portal comes with 11 eyes already placed. And because the odds of this happening are literally 1 in 100 billion, I think it confirms that the runner did cut his footage a few seconds ago, where he went off camera and placed the extra eyes in the portal himself. Come on, this cheating has to stop. So, after finding an end portal with 11 eyes, the runner literally only has to craft one Eye of Ender, where he lights the portal and makes his way into the end. But within 5 seconds of the runner being here, I already know that things are about to get crazy. Because while the runner is casually destroying some crystals, take a look at the bottom of the screen, where his friend is clearly focused on crafting something. And given his history of things he's done throughout the speedrun, it's safe to say I'm slightly nervous about what he's crafting. Well, the runner finally breaks all the crystals, where he then waits for the dragon to perch so he could use his beds and try to beat him. But I think his friend might be done with his crafting, because he makes his way towards the runner and gives him a weapon called the Chungus Staff? Okay, this has to be a joke, there's no way. Well, I might have laughed at this item for it being incredibly goofy, but 30 seconds later when the dragon perches, the runner uses this very weapon to one-shot the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins, and right away, there's already something incredibly suspicious about his spawn. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with his world generation, as that looked completely normal. And the spawn itself seems normal too, with the runner selecting the very first slot in his inventory. But if you take a good look into the top corner of the screen, you'll actually notice a single wooden pickaxe on the ground, which leads me to believe the runner has already been on the world before recording and accidentally forgot to pick up this wooden pickaxe. And later in the run, we're going to see exactly what the runner was doing off camera. So, the speedrun begins and the runner collects some wood, crafts some tools, and heads towards a nearby village. But hold on a second, did you catch that? While the runner is casually making his way into the village, notice how this cow suddenly moves forward in time, which means the runner has made a cut in his recording. But why in the world would he do this? Well, take a look back at the village, where the iron golem has suddenly turned into pure diamond. So while I did expose that the runner made a cut in his recording, I have zero idea how he managed to generate a diamond golem. So, the runner enters the village, and after collecting some beds and gathering some hay, the runner of course makes his way towards the diamond golem. But the chaos doesn't stop there, because tell me if you notice what happens while the runner is fighting this golem. Did you see that? Look! This village house in the background quite literally turns overpowered. Okay, how in the world is the runner turning things from normal to overpowered? Well, after killing the diamond golem, which of course somehow drops diamonds, the runner then makes his way towards the overpowered village house. But the chest inside doesn't match the level of hype as the outside, because it literally contains sticks, bread, paper, all extremely boring Minecraft items. But as the runner is looting the chests, I want you to actually look out of this window, where a portal quite literally appears out of thin air. And not only that, but it's literally fully built and ready to be lit. So I'm sorry, I wish I had an explanation for how a nether portal just spawned out of thin air. So, the runner makes his way towards the portal, but actually has a slight issue. You see, because the diamond golem them actually drop diamonds, the runner doesn't have any iron ingots to craft flint and steel and light the portal. So how is he supposed to continue with the speedrun? So the runner then starts to explain one of the dumbest things I've quite possibly ever heard, claiming that if you mine a piece of hay with a stone hoe, you actually get iron ingots? Is this guy serious? Why in the world would mining hay with a stone hoe give iron? Well, the runner must be convinced, because after crafting a singular stone hoe, he heads towards this exact block of hay. And I'll just play the footage. What? Okay, I have to be saying things right. How did he just collect an iron ingot from a hay bale? Alright, this speedrun is absolutely insane. So, after somehow collecting an iron ingot, the runner quickly crafts flint and steel, lights the portal, and prepares to spawn into the nether. Now, right before he's about to enter the nether, there's one extremely important detail I have to point out. Because do you remember back near the very beginning of the speedrun, when we saw that the runner left a wooden pickaxe on the floor, which basically proved that he was on the world before recording? Well, if you look into the corner of the screen at this frame, you'll actually spot a single piece of lime concrete on the ground. And not only does that make me think the wooden pickaxe and this piece of lime concrete are connected, but make sure to remember this block as it will become a crucial part of the speedrun. So, the runner spawns into the nether, where I can finally give him a bit of credit, as he does get the achievement for entering the nether. He's still in survival mode, and the runner starts looking for a fortress like any normal player. But hold on a second, did you catch that? Well, let's run the footage and pause at this exact frame, where if you look into this corner of the screen, you'll actually notice a single piglin. Here's the problem. It's actually impossible for a piglin to spawn naturally in a soul sand valley, the exact biome the runner is in, which means the only possible way it's here is if the runner spawns it himself. So keep this piglin in mind for later, as it's clearly incredibly suspicious. So, the runner finally locates a fortress, where they begin searching for a blaze spawner room. And while they do locate one completely normally, what happens next is insane. So I'll just show you. What? This blaze spawner has somehow spawned Minecraft's most overpowered blazes. Diamonds, gold, emeralds. Were these blazes added in the new update? And not only do these blazes look overpowered, but they also are overpowered. Because when the runner goes to kill the diamond blaze, oh my gosh. It not only drops a blaze rod, but also an insane amount of diamonds for the runner. This is insane. So, after collecting all the blaze rods he needs, along with a bunch of overpowered loot, a normal speedrunner would then begin searching for a bastion. However, do you remember how I pointed out this suspicious piglin earlier in the run? Well, instead of deciding to search for a bastion, the runner instead makes his way all the way back towards this mob. And that's when... What? The runner somehow hops on top of the piglin? And out of nowhere, the piglin starts to move, eventually leading the runner directly to a bastion. Okay, that was absolutely mind-blowing. So, the runner enters the bastion, where things finally seem slightly normal, with the runner collecting some gold, crafting even more gold ingots on top of the ones he got from the blazes, and finally finds a group of piglins to trade with. But I think the runner might have used up all his good luck, because these piglins don't give the runner a single good item. Dirt blocks, sticks, coal. These piglins are literally giving the runner trash. Well, despite the runner not getting a single pearl or any obsidian, he doesn't actually seem worried at all, because he decides to grab the dirt he got from the piglins and starts to build the shape of a nether portal? Okay, I know this guy is very overpowered, but it's quite simply impossible for him to light a dirt portal. Are you kidding me? The runner lights a dirt portal. If anyone out there has any idea how this is possible, please let me know. Well, after lighting a dirt nether portal, the runner is now back in the overworlds. But he still has to figure out how in the world he's going to locate the strongholds, because these piglins decided to give him sticks instead of pearls, which means he can't craft any Eyes of Ender, which is the one item you need if you want to locate a stronghold. Well, do you remember earlier in the run, before the runner entered the nether, how I pointed out this singular piece of lime concrete? Well, the runner decides to head all the way back to the village and towards this exact block. And when he breaks it, are you kidding me? He finds a secret ladder, which you guessed it, goes all the way to the stronghold. So I think it's pretty obvious the runner was building this secret pathway before he started recording. So, the runner takes the ladder straight into the strongholds, where he quickly loots one of the chests and starts to search for the end portal room. But that's when all of a sudden, the runner pulls out an anvil and places it down? Alright, first off, since when did the runner have an anvil? I haven't seen him collect one all speedrun. But secondly, what in the world could he possibly need one for? Well, he starts typing in chat what he's thinking, explaining that Mojang apparently added an update where if you rename an apple Ultra Phaser, it gives you the ability to phase through walls? Okay, what in the world is he yapping about now? Well, the runner seems to be convinced that this is a real update because he actually places an apple in the anvil and renames it Ultra Phaser. And when the runner goes to eat it, what? The runner literally starts phasing through walls, allowing him to locate the stronghold almost immediately. So, after phasing through a wall and locating the end portal room, he's actually made a huge mistake. Because without any Eyes of Ender, there is quite literally no possible way to light the portal. But I should have remembered to not doubt this speedrunner, because he decides to start digging down in the direct center of this lava pool, and after about 30 seconds of digging, oh my gosh, the runner falls directly into the end. No Eyes of Ender, no lit end portal. He's literally just dug straight into the end. I'm losing my mind. So, the runner spawns into the end, and I hate to say it, but everything about his spawn is actually normal. No overpowered item in his inventory, check. Dragon at full health, check. The runner typing /levitate and getting the ability to fly, what? The runner literally starts flying around the end, while he's clearly still in survival mode, which allows him to break every single crystal in record time. Is there anything this guy can't do? And since when was /levitate a real Minecraft command? Well, after breaking all the crystals, the runner finally settles down and starts to type, claiming that he's been very lucky throughout the run and that he actually wants the dragon fight to be fair. Wait, really lucky? Did he just claim this was all luck? Dude, he literally flew in survival mode. Either way, I guess I respect that he's trying to end on a more realistic note as he patiently waits for the dragon to perch. But once the dragon finally does, what? The runner magically whips out a weapon called the Soul Render, which is quite literally one of the scariest looking weapons that I've ever seen in my life. And despite the Ender Dragon still having full health, the runner uses this weapon to destroy it in less than a second. This next speedrun begins, and right away, there's already something I noticed that's incredibly suspicious. And no, it has nothing to do with the runner's hotbar, as he's not only in survival mode, but also has 0 XP. And his world generation looked completely normal too, as the runner is facing perfectly straight. But take a good look into the right corner of the screen, where you can actually spot a stone axe on the ground, which leads me to believe the runner was on this world before he started recording and accidentally left behind this single item. And the runner being on the worlds before recording will become very obvious later in the run. So, the speedrun begins with the runner collecting some wood, crafting a few stone tools, and heading towards a nearby shipwreck. But wait a second, pause the footage. Do you see that? Look, on the top left portion of the shipwreck, you can quite literally spot a rainbow chest. And not only is a rainbow chest clearly not a real Minecraft item, but the reason the runner was on the worlds before he started recording was to clearly place down this overpowered chest. and now explains the leftover stone axe. Well, the runner builds up to the shipwreck, where he of course wants to check out the rainbow chests. And inside, he actually finds some pretty normal loot. Some iron ingots, some bread, an obsidian pickaxe. Wait, what? Was an obsidian pickaxe an item that was added in the new update? Well, whether or not this item is real isn't even the important part, because what happens next is absolutely insane. I'll play the clip. What? Using the obsidian pickaxe, the runner mines this block of gravel, and somehow obsidian pops out of it. Meaning this pickaxe has the ability to turn any block into obsidian. Okay, now I'm pretty sure that the runner created this custom item on his own. Well, after collecting all the loot from the shipwreck and collecting 10 pieces of obsidian with the obsidian pickaxe, the runner has more than enough loot and items to build a portal and enter the nether. But watch closely to what happens as the runner spawns in. Did you catch it? Well, if we rewind the footage to before the runner enters the portal, notice how he's holding the obsidian pickaxe in his inventory. However, after the runner spawns into the nether, he's now somehow holding a stone pickaxe. And because it's impossible to switch items while in a generation screen, this proves that the runner has made a cut in his recording. So, when the runner locates another fortress literally less than 15 seconds later, it's obvious that when the runner cut the footage, he went off camera and located a fortress, built an entirely new and different nether portal, and pretended to spawn there the entire time. Come on, man. Hide your cheating better. Well, the runner locates the fortress, where I guess I can give him some credit for getting the achievement. But unfortunately, despite searching for a decent amount of time, the runner simply can't seem to locate a blaze spawner. And this isn't good, as without blazes, the runner can't collect blaze rods, which is a crucial item in Minecraft speedrunning. Well, that's when he decides to type in chat, claiming that he's going to build his own custom blaze spawner, and proceeds to make one of the funniest and most random looking structures that I've ever seen. Okay, first off, I think it's more than obvious there is only one type of blaze spawner in Minecraft. But secondly, does this guy really think these random blocks will actually spawn blazes? Oh my gosh. This quote-unquote custom blaze spawner actually manages to start spawning blazes. But that isn't the only way he's cheated, because let's replay this part of the footage. The speedrunner has magically acquired a fire resistance potion despite him not drinking a single one. But get this, he actually cheats one more time, because after killing the first blaze to come out of the custom spawner, the blaze somehow manages to drop 2 blaze rods, which is literally double the amount a normal blaze is supposed to drop, and clearly means the runner has messed with the game files of this world. So, after fighting a few more blazes at his custom blaze spawner, the runner manages to collect 7 rods, and then begins to search for a bastion. But I'm going to play this part of the speedrun, and let me know if you can catch what's fake about it. That's right. While the runner is in the middle of searching for a bastion, he makes his way towards this specific spot on this wall. And after he turns around, he suddenly finds a bastion right in front of him. Wait a second, this exact same area didn't have a bastion less than 10 seconds ago. So how did one just spawn out of nowhere? Well, it actually means that when the runner was facing this wall, he actually cut his footage, and then somehow spawns an entire bastion on his own, and turns back around, pretending like nothing ever happened. I've caught this guy cheating yet again. So, the speedrunner enters the bastion, and at a first glance, things may appear to be normal, as the runner crafts an iron pickaxe, mines a few gold blocks, and gathers a good amount of ingots. But here's where things get weird, because there is quite literally not a single piglin anywhere in the bastion, which is something that's impossible, as a bastion in Minecraft will always spawn with piglins. And what's even worse is that with no piglins to trade with, the runner has absolutely no way to collect ender pearls. Well, maybe I spoke too soon, because out of nowhere, what? Is that a drone in Minecraft? Okay, hold on. Was this an item in the new update? And wait, the drone is literally carrying ender pearls. Well, the drone is clearly flying in a very specific direction where we can literally see it deposit ender pearls into the bastion chest. And when the runner goes to open it, he finds an entire stack waiting for him. Which means, despite him not finding a single piglin, the runner is now ready to enter the overworld. Okay, there is no way a drone is a real Minecraft item. Well, with a ton of ender pearls, the runner should head to the overworld next. Here's the problem. He doesn't actually have any obsidian in his inventory. And for some reason, he decided to throw his obsidian pickaxe in lava a few moments ago, which literally makes it impossible for him to build a nether portal. Meaning the only way he could enter the overworld is if he traveled back all the way to his original portal, which is a problem, as it will waste a ton of valuable time trying to find it. Well, that's when the runner starts typing in the chat, explaining he wants to test out a new trick he saw on TikTok, which apparently claims that if you dig down 3 blocks, punch your fist 17 times, and then build back up, you will be teleported to the nearest nether portal? And I'm sorry, but what? There is no way that works. Well, the speedrunner proceeds to dig down exactly 3 blocks, where he punches his fist 17 times, just as he explained. And when the runner builds back up, oh my god! The speedrunner finds himself directly in front of his original nether portal. And look, this trick must have worked because he is quite obviously in an entirely different location. So if anyone can explain how in the world that just happened, that would be incredibly helpful. So the runner somehow teleports to his original nether portal and spawns back into the overworld, where a normal Minecraft speedrunner would then begin searching for the strongholds. And after the runner crafts some eyes of ender, he starts throwing them in the air, using a very popular technique known as triangulation to locate the position of the strongholds. Or, at least that's what I thought he was doing. Because watch, after the runner throws this eye of ender in the air, he literally runs in the complete opposite direction, which is very weird, considering an eye of ender literally points you in the direction of a stronghold. Well, the runner instead decides to run in what appears to be a very specific path, and that's when he finds... What? Is that a submarine? In vanilla Minecraft? Was this vehicle added in the new Minecraft update? Well, the runner of course heads into the submarine, where he starts to move underwater in a very specific direction. And just a few seconds later, oh my gosh, the speedrunner has actually managed to locate an underwater stronghold. And not only did he clearly know the location of this structure before he started recording, but he obviously downloaded some sort of mod to use a submarine and get there much faster. So, the runner enters the stronghold, and after looting a stronghold chest, the runner then begins to search for the end portal room. But, when he finally locates it, what on earth? The runner finds the world's biggest end portal room that quite literally has 5 end portals lined up in a row. And it doesn't take a genius to know it's impossible for more than one end portal to spawn naturally, so I have absolutely no idea what is wrong with this speedrunner's game files. Well, with more than enough end portals to choose from, the runner decides to pick the second one in line and quickly lights it. But I don't think choosing the second portal was the best idea, because when he jumps in and enters the end, what? Not only is the runner not in the end, but he's literally in a super flat world that clearly contains grass instead of endstone. And instead of obsidian pillars, the runner finds dirt pillars. I've lost my mind. Well, the runner quickly builds up and breaks all of the end crystals, and after pulling out a bow and displaying some decent skills, the runner actually manages to kill the ender dragon, which somehow lights the end gateway portal. That was insane. Click one of the videos on screen now to see even funnier fake Minecraft speedruns.